Hello friends, James Stevenson back with another episode of Who's Hating Hard on Tesla Today? It's the Wall Street Journal and it's Tim K. Higgins, who hasn't had lots of positive things to say about Tesla over the years. Isn't that right, Loki? As I check in with my co-host Loki, who ate his breakfast in a previous video and is now snoozing away in bed. Before I share my desktop with you and show you this tweet from Dr. Gabe Wilson that I became aware of because he tagged me in a reply, tagging Tim K. Higgins, the author of the article that is the focus of today's video. Where is this slowdown in EV growth you mention in today's Wall Street Journal article? Maybe objective data would help? What's funny is there is some objective data in the article, but not enough, right? So that's why I'm here, to share with you the missing data, the data you won't find in the article, the visualizations you definitely won't find in the article. But it's the same number, like within a whisper of the same number. So I think Tim K. Higgins got his data from the same source that you'll see my tables and charts are using. He's just giving a very different reading of the data than I give you. What did Gabe Wilson provide here? It's a chart of global BEV adoption, battery electric vehicles as a percent of global light vehicles. They're at a record high in the most recent quarter, and this trend can't be described as anything other than up and to the right. I mean, it's not going to be a new record every single quarter. That's not how disruption works. It doesn't go in a perfectly straight line or a perfectly smooth S-curve, but it does go up and to the right over time. And if you were to take the 12 trailing month average on these, they probably would be a new record every quarter. Let's go to this next one here and show you that just in China, these red bars here are this year, 2023. You can see that in almost every month this year in China, they're setting a new record for plug-in electric car sales in China, right? So he replied in this little thread, you mentioned EV charging is a headache, is it? Not if you have access to Tesla's reliable, widespread supercharger network. We just saw an article last week from Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal saying that EV quick chargers aren't reliable, and then, forced to admit a couple of times, Tesla owners will tell you you should just buy a Tesla and use the supercharging network because it is reliable. Tesla supercharger uptime is more than 99% across the country, which is way, way better than what you'll see if you try to charge your Rivian R1T or Ford Mach-E at an Electrify America or EVgo station. A lot of those chargers are out of order a lot of the time. Maybe you mean it's a headache for the legacy makers who don't have a reliable supercharger network, at least for another couple of years before they join Tesla's network. It's certainly not a headache for Tesla owners worldwide. With reliable superchargers worldwide and EVs that easily go 300 to 400 miles per charge, hybrids have absolutely no role anymore. Yes, there are still people who think they're going to run out of electricity by the side of the road. Eventually, they'll realize that just like with modernized cars, that's not a thing. People don't run out of battery on the side of the road and have to wait for a tow truck. You would see that happening when you see Teslas, if Tesla owners were falling victim to that all the time. Toyota bet wrong on EVs and is now trying to convince the market to backslide. The Prius was a great technology in its day. That ship has sailed. All right, so we've read the tweets. Let's read the article now and find out what's going on. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to bring back up the thing that I just minimized errantly, which is the article. Okay, so I've made this big enough that you can read it. Certainly the headline font size is large enough to read. The Wall Street Journal reporting today, Tesla versus Toyota is the new hot battle in cars. Elon Musk's all-electric ambition faces renewed embrace of hybrids. And then after this photo, for some reason it says Musk, comma. I don't know what that's about. So let's read the article. A slowdown in EV sales growth in the US, however, is testing Musk's gamble. At the same time, hybrid vehicles have seen a surge in buyers this year, in part because of the success of new offerings by Toyota and its luxury brand Lexus. So if you're looking for a comparison of the numbers, how much are the hybrids up versus how much are the EVs up? You're going to have to go find that on your own. Even though it's the thesis statement of this article, Tim K. Higgins doesn't provide a comparison of how much US EV sales have increased by versus how much US hybrid sales have increased by. I'll share my guess with you on why that is. All right, Toyota and Lexus hybrids are doing great, Tim K. Higgins seems to think. The buzz of electrification in the industry has somewhat mainstreamed hybrids. David Christ, the head of the Toyota brand in North America, said during an interview. So what's this article about? Tim K. Higgins from the Wall Street Journal interviewed David Christ, the head of the Toyota brand in North America, and then wrote this article based on what David Christ, the head of Toyota brand in North America, told him. So, I mean, there are a few numbers in here, but mostly what you're seeing here is Tim K. Higgins parroting the spin being offered by David Christ, the head of the Toyota brand in North America. It's really had an awakening. The pitch to customers for buying a hybrid is simple. Such cars are often cheaper than all-electric rivals and get some benefits of electrification with improved MPG compared with a traditional car without the headaches of having to charge like an EV. So if you don't know what a hybrid is, Tim K. Higgins has just explained it to you. Here's a photo of former CEO of Toyota, Akio Toyoda, who stayed on as chairman of the board, I guess. He's the grandson of the guy who founded the company. There's no nepotism there, though. He got to the CEO position purely by merit of how great his ideas are. Like, you know, the apartment complex at the foot of Mount Fuji that Toyota Research and Development spent a ton of time making CG renders of. That's a real thing. Go to Twitter and search for hashtag Toyota Woven City, and you'll see that that's a thing that he really invested a bunch of money and time and effort and resources in. And of course, hydrogen, right? They invested a ton of money in hydrogen vehicles, only to find out nobody wants your dumb hydrogen vehicles that have so many setbacks and not any advantages that are clear over pure EVs. Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda has cautioned that an all-in EV approach isn't what many customers want. All right, so if you believe Akio Toyoda, that's what he thinks. The Japanese automaker, first with the Prius sedan more than 20 years ago, helped popularize hybrid technology, which combines batteries with gas-powered motors to improve fuel efficiency, but it is a technology that looked poised to be forgotten as hybrid sales slumped last year, and EV sales rose 65%. A sign for those betting a new era was dawning. Time to move on from hybrid cars, Elon Musk tweeted last year. That was a phase. Okay, remember this later. EV sales slumped last year. All right? So they ought to be back up this year. If they're back to where they were 2 years ago, they should be up. Right? And EV sales were up 65% last year. Okay. Amid the EV enthusiasm, some investors agreed. Few saw hybrids as a proper Tesla fighter. Certain investors tried unsuccessfully earlier this year to oust Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda over the company's strategy to hedge investments across hybrids, EVs, and other technologies, e.g. hydrogen. He had stubbornly cautioned that the all-in EV approach favored by some rivals. Racing to catch up with Tesla wasn't what many customers wanted or were prepared for. Months later, as the likes of Ford and GM pulled back their EV production plans, Toyota seemed to gloat. People are finally seeing reality, he said last month. And then Tim K. Higgins is encouraging you to comment on his article. I also encourage you to comment on his article if you think he's missed anything in the article. But watch this video first and then go leave your comment. It's easy to understand why he feels that way. Between its Toyota and Lexus brands, the company in the US sells 26 electrified vehicle options, including a hybrid EV and other technologies, hydrogen, and saw deliveries of those offerings together rise 20% this year through the first 3 quarters for a total of about 455,000. So they sold a total of 455,000 hybrids and EVs and hydrogen cars, and almost no hydrogen cars, right? So Tesla, which doesn't release US delivery results, sold about 493,500 all electric vehicles during that period, a 26% increase, according to an estimate from data firm Motor Intelligence. All right, so a person reading this article might look at this number and say, well, probably it's about an even mix, right, of hybrids and EVs and other technologies. So, maybe half this number is pure EVs, something like that. Well, at this point in the article, I will diverge to showing you what the actual data is. Remember these numbers that you just saw. There's the 493,513 for Tesla. Tim K. Higgins rounded that off to 493,500 in his article right here. So you can see that number is there. Let's go find the 455,000 number for Toyota and Lexus brands that he's calling out here. Where do we see 455,000 electric vehicle sales for Toyota? Well, here's Toyota. They sold 6,486. The rest must be Lexus then. Here's Lexus. They sold 2,511. So between the two of these, they didn't even sell 9,000. Those sum to 8,997 EVs. How many did they sell last year that were pure EVs? They sold 232 Toyotas and 0 Lexus vehicles. So you can't even calculate the percentage growth on Lexus because last year it was 0. For Toyota, that's a 2,695% increase in EV sales so far year to date, using the same estimates that Tim K. Higgins is using in his article. How much was Tesla up by? Tesla's increase was 102,699 vehicles. How much was Toyota and Lexus increase? Well, it was 8,765 out of 8,997. So they sold almost nothing last year, and now they're up to still less than 10,000. But other people are doing better, right? Chevrolet was up by 27,000, Rivian was up 24,000, Mercedes was up 22,000. Those are pretty good. They're not as good as being up 102,000 like Tesla was. But let's take a look at this on a chart. That's going to make this a lot easier to do the analysis on because it's hard to draw conclusions from just glancing at numbers in a table. Human beings are a lot better at grasping the key takeaways when you plot the information on a chart, which is something that I do as often as I can. Here's the chart. So on your y-axis, what you'll see is last year's year-to-date Q3 unit sales. So last year, Tesla sold about 400,000 EVs. The x-axis is giving you this year's unit sales. Year-to-date Q3 2023, Tesla sold about 500,000 vehicles. We just saw the number 493,513. That's where that plots on a chart. And the size of the bubble here is giving you the market share. Tesla has more than half of the market, 56.5%. Of US EV sales this year, year-to-date Q3, were Tesla vehicles. How many did everybody else sell? Without exception, all competitors sold fewer than 50,000 vehicles, both last year and this year. They're all confined to this box. Let me show you what this looks like if I exclude Tesla from the chart. Let's zoom way in on just this little rectangle here that's the 50,000 or less kids table. So now you can see Ford has 5.3% of the market. Last year they sold a little over 40,000. This year they sold a little over 45,000. Chevrolet last year sold a little over 20,000. This year they sold about 50,000. just shy, 49,531. So they're all under 50,000. Here's Hyundai, Rivian, Kia, VW, BMW, Mercedes. And the thing to stress here is that if you're growing year over year, your bubble will be to the right of the diagonal line that runs through these boxes here. So Kia actually doing worse. Oh, here's the 15,000 versus 15,000. Okay, so this is the point that you want to draw from the origin through here. And then the 35,000 box is the next one you want to get to. So everybody has increased their sales year over year, just about. Maybe Kia was down slightly. We can see it on the chart if I go there. So let's go find Kia. Where's Kia? They're all the way at the bottom. They were down from 24,468 last year to 22,891. They were down the most. They were down 1,577, which you can see graphically on this chart. They're kind of the only bubble that would be to the left of that diagonal line that runs through these equidistant points. 35,000, 35,000. 45,000, 45,000. Okay, so to the extent that you are to the right of that diagonal line, you've grown sales year over year. And if you've grown your sales year over year by a greater percentage than the total market did, you've gained market share. Let's look at Toyota as an example of that. Okay, here's Toyota. They're up 2,695.7% because last year they sold 232, and this year they sold 6,486. So they have gained 0.7 percentage points of market share. They went from 0.0% of the market share in the prior year to 0.7% of the market share this year. So by virtue of growing from 232 to 6,486, they've taken 7 points of EV market share in the US away from Tesla. Tesla's down 10.1% from 66.6% last year, exactly 2/3 almost, to only 56.5% of the market this year. So when you see people talking about Tesla losing EV market share, this is what they're talking about. Even though Tesla gained more than 4 times as many units sold year over year as the second place, as the next closest competitor did. They're losing market share overall because so many of these companies went from 0 to 2,500, or 1,600 to 4,500, or 1,000 to 4,000, or 36 to 5,000, right? All these little bitty things here are gaining market share from a very tiny number to a less tiny number. That's what's going on here. All right. So do I have other charts here? Yes. If you want to zoom in and see what's in this quadrant, I've got a chart for that. Looks like this. So here's the companies that have extremely tiny market shares. And if you want to see what's in this box over here, here's Mazda, Jaguar, and BrightDrop, all of whom have super, super tiny market share. You can barely see their bubble. It looks like a pixel on this chart. What other charts do I have here for you? Here is a chart of U.S. electric vehicles sold from 2022 year-to-date Q3 to 2023 year-to-date Q3. Tesla is up by the most, which you can see very clearly on this chart. Everybody else is still in the sub 50,000 bunch, with 49,531 being the best effort this year by any company, coming from Chevrolet, a pretty big increase over what they were selling a year ago. Ford did not increase by that much. So there's that chart if you want it. Here's another one. This is just Tesla versus everybody else. So last year Tesla sold 390. This year, as we've already seen, they sold 493,513. So that's an increase of more than 100,000. The rest of the market combined from all these tiny companies, 24 little brands, increased their sales from a pitiful 196,000 last year to a less pitiful 379,000, but still less, all combined, than Tesla sold this year, and still less this year, all combined, than Tesla sold a year ago. So that's a good chart. And you can see on here that Tesla is losing market share, right? This is 2/3 of the total stack. This is only a little more than half of the total stack. So there's what your 10 points worth of market share decline look like. Tesla just keeps selling every car they can make. And competitors who were doing terribly last year are doing less terribly this year. So they're taking market share from Tesla because last year their sales were so poor. Here's what it looks like if you just chart the increase. Okay, how many more EVs did you sell this year than you sold last year? Tesla sold more than 100,000 more EVs so far year-to-date Q3 2023 versus the prior year same period. The next closest competitor sold 27,519 more. So you can see on the chart the relative magnitude of those increases. And here's the same information on a tree map. So which brand has grown their US EV sales by the most? It's Tesla. Tesla grew by 102,000. Let me see if I can cheat that T into the frame. There. 102,699. And now we'll go back to the article. Having educated you on what's actually going on, instead of letting you guess based on the limited information Tim K. Higgins provided in his article. Okay, so of the 455,000 total hybrid EV and other technologies, we now know that less than 9,000 of these were EVs. I'll read this again. Tesla, which doesn't release US delivery results, sold about 493,500 all-electric vehicles during that period, a 26% increase according to an estimate by data firm Motor Intelligence. Amid a tougher sales environment overall lately for the US car market, Musk has committed to fueling sales growth this year at the cost of profitability. To the dismay of some investors, Tesla's profit fell 44% in the third quarter. The biggest pot of new customers for Tesla comes from Toyota. According to Strategic Vision, which surveys new buyers, nationwide 8% of Tesla's buyers came from Toyota vehicles. All right, Akio Toyota, you're telling us that people don't want to buy EVs, but 8% of Tesla buyers are defecting from Toyota. They're leaving the Toyota brand behind. That's the kind of car they had purchased most recently was a Toyota, and now they're buying an all-electric Tesla instead. Why? Maybe because they don't like your limited offering of Busy Forks, the Toyota BZ4X, and whatever the Lexus EV is. They would rather buy a Tesla and get an EV from the brand known for EVs. So maybe there's more interest in EVs than you think, Akio Toyota. Tesla is stealing sales from Toyota left and right, but they are having to drastically reduce their pricing to keep this up, Alexander Edwards, Strategic Vision president, said. Toyota, on the other hand, has kept pricing the same and has allowed dealers to mark up their products. Well, Toyota's pricing being the same isn't maybe the huge W you think. Tesla pricing was only higher a couple of years ago to throttle back demand because the backlog was getting so long. It was over a year at one point, and Tesla had to keep raising prices to prevent that backlog from becoming 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, right? So Tesla's pricing today is only back to where it was a few years ago before that pricing started creeping up. You know, Elon had said on conference calls he was embarrassed how much Tesla was charging. And that's where those really high gross margin percentages were coming from at the time. All that price increase was just flowing through to the bottom line as additional profit. The front line for that fight is in California, where Tesla's price cuts have made the cost of an entry Model 3 sedan, including federal and state tax breaks, less expensive than the suggested starting price of a Camry. So, has Tesla priced their vehicles below Camry? No, that's not what this says. If you read it again, it says if you knock $10,000 off Tesla's price, to include the $7,500 federal EV tax credit and the $2,500 California state EV tax credit, then the out-of-pocket cost to the end consumer is less than the sticker price of a Toyota Camry. Tesla is nipping at Toyota's lead in market share in the state. Nationally, Tesla's Model Y crossover sales overtook Camry this year through September and were fewer than 7,000 vehicles short of Toyota's best-selling U.S. vehicle, the RAV4 crossover, according to estimates by Motor Intelligence. So they've got Model Y very close. These are just estimates. As Tim mentioned earlier, Tesla doesn't release official numbers by country on deliveries. And California price cuts have made the cost of an entry Tesla Model 3, including federal and state tax breaks, less costly than the suggested starting price of a Camry, is reiterated as the caption to this photo showing Model 3s. Musk clearly noticed the narrowing gap. In October, he told analysts, to be totally frank, if our car cost the same as a RAV4, nobody would buy a RAV4, or at least they're very unlikely to. I would add, subject to awareness. People have to know that the Toyota RAV4 costs more than a Tesla Model Y, similarly spec'd, in order for them to gather enough information to know that the Tesla Model Y is a better value for them to buy. Tesla does not have saturation of awareness in the minds of consumers across the U.S. There are a lot of people out there who still think Teslas cost $100,000 each. They don't know they can afford one, so they don't bother investigating Tesla as an option for their next vehicle. He has long been, Elon Musk has long been dismissive of hybrids, even though Toyota helped Tesla early on with an investment and sweetheart deal on its first assembly factory. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Like, the determination of whether a hybrid is a good idea is a separate deal from the NUMMI factory sale. You want to go all electric because that is the truly sustainable path, he told the Wall Street Journal years ago. If you split the baby and you have a car that is trying to be a good gasoline car and a good electric car, you end up being not as compelling as either a pure gasoline or pure electric. Elon's right. You don't want to have to build into your car a full gasoline car, powertrain, gas tank, exhaust system, etc., and a decent size electric battery and motor and stuff, because you're just carrying extra weight in that vehicle that's not needed if you had just gone all in to one of those drivetrain types or the other. For its part, Toyota is doubling down on its hybrid strategy. This month at an event in Malibu, California, Toyota announced that for the first time the Camry, the nation's top-selling sedan, will only be offered as a hybrid when the next-generation vehicle hits U.S. showrooms in the spring. Toyota years ago had to pull back their advertising that described their one of their plug-in hybrids as a self-charging hybrid, or a self-charging EV. It charges itself, is what they were saying in their print advertising. The catch, of course, being, in order for it to self-charge, you have to drive to a gas station and pump 12 or 13 gallons of gasoline in it, and then it'll self-charge while blowing pollution out the tailpipe. That's what a self-charging hybrid is, if you wanted to know. Self-charging EV. So now we're back to what David Christ, head of Toyota Marketing North America, has to say. He says, over the last few years, when we sell a vehicle with multiple powertrains, an internal combustion engine, and a hybrid, in most cases the hybrid powertrain has been sold out longer and more popular with customers. That gave us an inclination that customers are ready and willing to go all hybrid. All hybrid is a very funny expression, but one you would expect a head of product marketing for Toyota North America to use if that's what they're trying to sell people. Part of new enthusiasm for hybrids comes from what Toyota has been able to do with cost and performance. When Toyota began spreading its hybrid technology to vehicles beyond the Prius, it came at a hefty premium. In 2005, for example, Toyota's Highlander hybrid cost almost $10,000 more than the base version of the sport utility vehicle and was engineered to maximize efficiency at the expense of performance, or, put another way, customers paid more for some noticeable compromises. And they're trying to sell you the same thing today, right? Like, Toyota had a Lexus RX hybrid in 2005. 18 years ago, they were offering a very similar product to what they're offering today. They've just been able to get the cost down some, is what this says. Today that's changed. Toyota hasn't said what the new Camry will cost, but the current hybrid version starts at a little less than $2,500 more than the base version of the sedan. Yes, if they stop making the pure gas version of the Camry, probably it's going to gain some efficiencies for them. Less complexity means they're going to be a little more efficient at producing the hybrid version, if the hybrid version is the only version they make. But it's not a sustainable solution in the long term if you still have to pump gasoline into it and if it still blows pollution out the tailpipe. And Toyota is touting the new hybrid will have more horsepower than the current base version, or as David Christ puts it, there's no compromise anymore. Well, there still is. It's still kissing your sister, David Christ. I know you don't want people to realize that, but it's still a compromise car. A hybrid is exactly what Elon Musk said it was, not as compelling as either a pure gasoline or pure electric. And if we go back to these total numbers here, look at this. So I'll zoom in here for you. Here's how much the total market is up year to date for EV sales from last year at 586 to this year at 873. That is a 48.7% increase. What did Tim Higgins say in his article? He said that Toyota's hybrid sales are up 20% versus a bad prior year comp. So he said sales slumped last year, and this year they're up 20% if you include the EVs and the hybrids. But as we've already seen, Toyota's, let me go to this other tab that I have them sorted on so I can find them quicker. Toyota's EV sales between the Toyota brand and the Lexus brand, less than 9,000 EVs sold. So these huge percentage increases aren't helping their total 20% increase along very much. EVs are up by more. EVs are up by 48.7%. So even though Tesla is losing some market share here, down to 56.5%, from a prior year 66.6%, the total EV market is up by more than the hybrid market is up by. It's in the numbers Tim K. Higgins didn't share with you. That's who's hating hard on Tesla today. It's Tim K. Higgins making false comparisons of Toyota against Tesla. Right, Loki? Anything I should add? Loki once again sleeping on the job, letting me do all the work. As I outro and say, if you've forgotten to like this video, click the like button. If you're watching at this point in the video, you must have liked the video. If you click the like button, it helps the algorithm recommend this video to other people. Do the algorithm a solid and click like. It's free to do that. It's also free to subscribe to me if you're watching me on YouTube. I'll leave you a link over here you can click to subscribe to me for free. But I appreciate all those who support me on Patreon for $4.20 a month, on X for $3 a month, and especially my executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com, and I'll see you in the next one.